Warpgate Anomaly. It's a single-player spacecraft salvaging board game. You build and repair your spacecraft, go on missions to explore wrecked ships filled with encounters in order to find the warp core fragments before being overwhelmed by pirates or more dangerous threats. You win if you acquire all 3 of the warp core fragments located at the end of each wreck. You lose if one wreck is completely filled up with encounters and you cannot place a new encounter there. You also lose if the encounter deck is completely depleted. The play area has several key areas. At the top there are 3 lanes representing pieces of wrecked spaceships. Each lane has locations which contain a location card and up to 2 encounter cards. When you go on missions, you proceed through the wreck starting with the bottom location and proceeding in sequence until you reach the end. The lower part of the play area is your ship. It has a grid of 3 rows and 3 columns where you can install parts or place crew members. When on a mission, your ship might take damage. This is represented by flipping the card over. It cannot be used when it's damaged. If it takes damage again before being restored, it's destroyed and placed in the discard pile. Certain parts may also store resources. You can use these resources to activate certain abilities on different parts and overcome obstacles. On your turn, you can spend up to 5 actions in any combination to build, repair, or rummage for new parts for your ship. You can also go on missions. You need a functional remote capsule or a crew member in order to take this action. When you go on a mission, you decide on one of the wrecks to enter. You cannot take the regular actions while on a mission, but certain locations and parts or crew members will provide you with different options for how to spend actions. You start at the bottom and reveal all cards at the location. You proceed through each encounter at the location, starting with the events, the enemies, and hazards. Once you resolve the encounters, you can proceed to the next location or end the mission. If you get through all the locations, you take the warp core fragment. So let's look at how this plays out in Tabletop Simulator. We're going to press this button here to set up the board. And this gives us a hand of 3 cards. It also fills each wreck with a location card and a single encounter card. And we can look at the turn sequence here to start our first turn. On the first turn, we don't need to reset our actions, but generally when we're taking actions, we can flip these over to indicate that we've used them to take an action. At the start of each turn, we also would add resources to each part that requires it. So this part says at the start of a turn or when it's placed, add energy and fuel. There's spots for these on each card. The main portion of our turn is going to be taking actions. So we have these actions we can take. We can discard any number of cards and draw that many plus 1. We can place, replace, or remove a part or crew member. And we can restore a damaged part or crew member. The remote capsule also gives the option to start a mission. So let's take a look at the remote capsule and see what it does. At the top, we've got the name of it. We've also got a grid here representing where this part can go in our spacecraft. So this part can only go in the center space. At the start of a turn, it gets resources, or when it's placed, it gets resources. And anytime when we're not already on a mission, we can use an action to start a mission. So we could just do that. We could start scouting out a location perhaps, but we might want to equip our craft with a few things that might let it be more successful and potentially uncover more than just the first location at one of these wrecks. So we've got a cutting torch here, which lets us spend fuel to pass a hazard. Hazards are static encounters that are in each location that do not go away. They're encountered each time you enter the wreck. The other types of encounters are events, which happen once and then are discarded, and enemies, which last until they are defeated. You can run away from them and pass by them, provided you have enough speed, or if you have enough combat strength, you can defeat them and take a card from the salvage for your reward. So let's start with a cutting torch here. We place that down, we spend the action to do so, and now that gives us the option to pass a hazard with our fuel. Magazine gives us more ammo for parts that take ammo. Battery gives us more energy. We don't really have anything that uses energy, but it's a useful part to have. So we're going to spend another action to maybe discard our magazine and draw 2 more cards. Okay, this gives us some different options. We can have solar panels, which give us energy, redundant wires, which lets us restore another part. So I think we'll just start by placing maybe the redundant wires in here, just to give us an option to repair something. And then we can start our first mission. So we'll use an action to start the mission, and we'll decide on a rec to go. Let's just go to rec 2 here. We'll approach the first location, flip over the location card. This is a workshop, so we can spend an action here to restore a part. You can take these actions listed on the location card only after you've dealt with the encounters here. And we've got a pirate salvager. Each enemy has strength and speed, and it has effects that happen during combat. So this will damage a random column. We don't have any, we don't have anything really that lets us defeat an enemy here. So we're going to look at how we can resolve combat. Once we encounter an enemy, we can choose to either flee or fight. If we flee, we look at speed. If we fight, we look at strength. So we don't have any part that gives us speed or strength, so we have 0 for both of those. And if we compare our speed, if we have greater speed than the enemy, we can pass without damage, or we can choose to end the mission without taking damage. If we have speed equal to the enemy, we can pass and take damage, or we can end the mission without taking damage. And if we have less speed than the enemy, then we're going to take damage and end the mission. For combat, for fighting, if we have strength greater than the enemy, we can destroy the enemy without taking damage and draw a card from the salvage or cargo hold. Strength equal to the enemy, we can destroy the enemy and take damage, draw a card from the salvage or cargo hold. So we'll destroy it, but we will take some damage. And if we have strength less than the enemy, we will just take damage and end the mission. So we have, those are both outcomes are the same for if you have less strength than the enemy and less speed than the enemy, we're going to take damage here regardless. So we will roll our column die to determine which column gets hit. And it is the left column. Okay, luckily we don't have any parts there. It just hits our empty ship here, and we don't really actually take any damage to any of our parts, but we do end the mission. So we can start another mission, or we can maybe dig, now that we know that there's a pirate right at the start, we can potentially dig for some weapons that might defeat it. So let's take our last action and do that. Draw 3 new cards for our next turn. All right, nothing there, but we'll have to deal with that next turn. So we've used all of our actions. Now we can take the next step in the turn, which is add encounters. So we add cards from our encounter deck. We put 1 at the leftmost and topmost position at each rec. So 1, 2, 3 here. All right, so we've placed our encounters, and we can start a new turn by flipping over our actions. Now we still want to look for some weapons, but perhaps we can just use some brute force to get through one of these other locations, or just pass it with our with our cutting torch. So maybe let's start a mission right off the bat to Rec 3 here. All right, we'll flip over the location. This is a medical base. We can restore crew members here. And we've encountered a hazard here. Unstable hull, damage a cell. We could use our fuel to bypass that. And that might be a good option. But I think we're going to chance it and say, let's just try to run through that hazard. We only have 3 positions here, so we have a pretty good chance of any damage to a cell missing one of our parts here. So, oops, let's roll both of these dice and determine. Okay, it's a bottom row, right column. So that hits our spacecraft here, and that is an empty space. So nothing happens. And we can proceed to the next location. All right, we've got a reactor. We can get some energy here. But we've got an event here, our system reboots. So we need to resolve that by removing energy. And we can proceed to the next location. All right, we've got a leaky tank here. Got all sorts of things going wrong. This is an event, happens immediately. We lose our fuel. So now our ship is kind of out of resources here. But we don't have that much to begin with, but we can spend some actions to reveal all cards at another location. We could potentially reveal any location here. So I think that's a good opportunity to actually look ahead and see what we've got going on here at Rec 3, but also maybe spend an action if we want to reveal the starting location at Rec 1. So let's try that and that. We spent 2 actions here to reveal a pirate scout and a sealed airlock and a pirate sniper. These are some pretty dangerous enemies. We'll need speed to get past these, perhaps. And we can just end the mission there, but perhaps we want to spend 1 more action to reveal Rec 1 here. Another enemy. So that's good here. We got to the bridge and we're able to scan the other locations to see what's ahead. We're going to end the mission on our own though, because we don't want to run into an enemy without being prepared for it. So let's go back to our workshop here and build our spacecraft. And we've used our last action. So now the next step is to place an encounter at each wreck. And left topmost, so it goes right here. And now we flip over our actions. Start a new turn. Oh, at the start of our turn also, we're going to fill up our remote capsule with some fuel and energy. I think it's probably a good idea to place our monopropellant thruster here using action. Drop in our autocannon, use an action. That starts with some ammo. That'll give us 2 strength. And I think 1 more action here to put in our laser array. And now we might be able to successfully get past these encounters here, depending on what this one is. So we'll start with our wreck. Unstable hull, damage a cell. I think we will again start our mission here. I think we'll take a chance and we'll roll the dice and see what we land on. Bottom row, left column, empty space. Good, we can get past that. Okay, we're going to go to the next encounter here, which is the bridge, and we're going to flip over the encounter card. Okay, this is a hazard, micrometeorites. We need speed to pass. So we can't get through here unless we get some speed. All right, the only way we can do this is by using our fuel. Oops. And using that to get monopropellant thruster. And now we've used our speed there. All right, so proceed to the next location. Pirate Scout. We'll use 2 ammo and we'll defeat that. And we draw a card. And now we decide whether we want to proceed here. This is still going to be pretty tough. I think we're not going to get past this, so we're gonna go back and retreat here. Your combat strength lasts for the entire location. So for this location, we could potentially defeat the pirate sniper here by getting 4 strength, still taking a damage, and then also passing the hazard. We don't need to spend a total of 6. We just need to get up to 2 to pass the hazard and up to 4 to defeat the pirate. So I think we'll take one more action here. We could get EMP generator. I think we might need more storage. We've discarded a lot of our storage, so I think we'll draw a card for last action here. And that's our last action of the turn, so we'll place more encounters. So play proceeds here. Each turn, we probably need to start going into Rec 1 and 2 and defeating some of these enemies just to get some additional cards from our salvage. That would be more powerful cards. And to clear them out so there's a little bit more time before this gets filled up. So if we just spent 2 more turns trying to go into Rec 3, we would be risking filling up these locations. And once we cannot place an encounter at a location, then the game is over. That's representing getting overwhelmed by the enemy forces. And that is Warpgate Anomaly. You can check it out on Tabletop Simulator, and I'm working on a print and play version as well.